Boy in the Girls' Bathroom, Chapter 33. Bradley was terrible. He dribbled with two hands. He passed the ball to people who weren't even on his team. But worst of all, whenever anyone passed the ball to him, he said thank you. He never shot at the basket. He didn't dare. Finally, after his team was losing 28-6, everyone told him to try a shot. He looked around for someone to pass to. Jeff sat down so Bradley wouldn't pass it to him. Just shoot, he said. The rest of his team sat down too. Just shoot, they said. Everybody on the other team sat down. Shoot the ball! Bradley faced the basket. His tongue slipped out the corner of his mouth as he carefully aimed, then threw the ball high in the air. It hit the back of the rim, bounced against the backboard, then dropped through the net. Great shot, said Jeff. Way to go, said Andy, patting him on the back. At first he couldn't believe it, but then he saw Carla's book lying on the ground at the base of the basket. No wonder, he realized. Everyone headed for the water fountain. Bradley went along too, even though he wasn't thirsty. But then, once he got there, he realized he was thirsty. He just hadn't noticed. Good game, Bradley, said Ryan. You just have to stop passing to people who aren't on your team, said Dan. Maybe you should give the rest of us on your team black eyes too, said Robbie. Then you'll know who to pass to. Everyone laughed, even Bradley. He and Jeff were the last two left at the water fountain. Everyone else had already started back to class. As they drank, their eyes met, and they broke up laughing. How did you get the black eye? Bradley asked after he stopped laughing. Melinda, said Jeff. Bradley nodded. She's strong. Oh boy, you can say that again, said Jeff. They laughed again. My book! Bradley suddenly exclaimed. He ran back to the basketball court where he'd left it. Jeff shook his head as he watched Bradley run away. Life's weird, he thought. He walked into the boys' bathroom and splashed his sweaty face with cold water. He had to hold the faucet down with one hand and splash his face with the other. Colleen Varigold walked in. He stared at her. She looked around, then screamed and ran outside. Jeff watched the door swing shut behind her. What would you call Chapter 33? Chapter 34. Life was too weird for Jeff to return to class. Anytime you want to talk, Carla had said, please feel free to come and see me, even if you just feel like getting out of class for a while. He hoped she really meant it. He had a lot he wanted to say to her, beginning with, I'm sorry. He slowly walked to her office. He hoped she wasn't with somebody else. He knocked. Carla opened the door and smiled when she saw him. Hello, Jeff. He smiled. Hi, Carla. He stopped because he saw somebody else sitting at the round table. I believe you two know each other, said Carla. Jeff lowered his eyes. Hello, Colleen, he muttered. Colleen Varigold covered her face with her hands. You don't mind if Jeff joins us, do you, Colleen? Carla asked. Colleen shook her head with her hands still over her face. Jeff awkwardly sat down. Mrs. Ebel doesn't know I'm here, he said. I'll write you a note, said Carla. Colleen peeked out from between her fingers. I'm not supposed to be here either, she said. Carla turned to Colleen. So, what's the big emergency? Can you say it in front of Jeff? He already knows, said Colleen. She looked at Jeff. You better not tell anybody. I won't, Jeff promised. Tell somebody. Anybody? What? Asked Carla. Colleen walked into the boys' bathroom, said Jeff. I was washing my face. Jeff! Colleen exploded. You just promised you wouldn't tell. Oops, said Jeff. He blushed. It was only Carla. You were going to tell her anyway, weren't you? Colleen smiled at him. I didn't go there on purpose, she explained to Carla. It was an accident. I don't believe in accidents, said Carla. Colleen stared at her in amazement. She wondered how Carla knew she had gone in there after Jeff on purpose. She turned to Jeff. I'm sorry for saying hello to you when you didn't like it. That's okay. Anyhow, How was I supposed to know you didn't like it? You always said hello back. I know I can't help it. Whenever anybody says hello to me, I always say hello back. He looked at the picture of the green monster with 6 hands hanging on the wall. If I was a big scary monster, or if a big scary monster said hello, Jeff, I'd probably say hello back to it. Colleen laughed. Well, what's wrong with that? Demanded Carla. If a monster says hello to you, you should say hello back to it. If you don't, then I'd have to wonder which one of you really is a monster. Colleen frowned. She suddenly remembered that Bradley Chalkers had said hello to her at the beginning of the lunch period, and she had walked away without saying hello back. It made her feel terrible. You can say hello whenever you want, said Jeff. She smiled again. Hello, Jeff, she said. Hello, Colleen, said Jeff. I read somewhere, said Carla, that in Zen, the most important rule is that when one person says hello to you, you have to say hello back. What's Zen? Asked Colleen. A religion, answered Carla. She got a book from her bookcase. Here it is. She read aloud from Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters by J.D. Salinger. In certain Zen monasteries, it's a cardinal rule that when one monk calls out hi to another monk, the latter must call out hi back without thinking. Jeff should be a Zen monk, Colleen exclaimed with delight. Jeff laughed. I already say hello to anybody who says hello to me, he said proudly. Can girls be Zen monks too? Colleen asked. Why not? Said Carla. Colleen laughed with delight. Then she said, Jeff, do you want to come to my birthday party next Sunday? Yes, said Jeff. That's the second most important thing about being a Zen monk. Whenever another Zen monk invites you to a birthday party, you have to say yes. Colleen laughed again. You're the only boy so far, she said. I'll invite one more, but only one. I can't invite too many boys. Suddenly she looked very serious. She knew what she had to do. What would you call chapter 34? And do you know what she knows she has to do? Chapter 35. Before dinner, when it was still light, Bradley's father, bad leg and all, taught Bradley how to dribble. Bradley could hardly wait to show his friends. The next morning, when the bell rang for recess, everyone hurried outside, except Bradley. First, he had to put his paper neatly in his notebook. Then he had to mark its place in his book and put all his pencils in his pencil holder. Then he put everything away neatly in his desk. He rushed out the door. Hello, Bradley, said Colleen. He stopped cold. Colleen closed her eyes tightly, then opened them. With the determination of a Zen monk, she asked, Would you like to come to my birthday party on Sunday? Bradley stared at her. Jeff will be there, said Colleen. He's the only other boy. Everyone else will be girls. I would have invited you sooner, except, I just found out when it was. Bradley nodded his head until his mouth worked again. Yes, he said. Good, said Colleen, then scooted away. Bradley stared after her, then turned in a circle as he tried to remember which way he was going. Bradley, called Andy, hurry up, we need you. He ran to the basketball court. He forgot everything he learned about dribbling. Is he coming? Asked Melinda. Colleen nodded. Lori stuck out her tongue and screamed. It'll be fun, said Melinda. Bradley's not the same as he was. I think he's gotten better. Oh, you can't come anymore, Melinda, said Colleen. Why not? She asked, obviously very hurt. Because they're coming and you beat them up. But they started it. Colleen stared at her, hands on hips. She couldn't believe Melinda was being so unreasonable. I thought I was your best friend, said Melinda. You are, said Colleen, but they're boys. Oh, okay, you can come, but you better not cause any more trouble. I thought I was your best friend, said Lori. That night, Bradley lay in bed, too excited to sleep. He couldn't wait until tomorrow when he'd see Carla again. He had so much to share with her, and it was all because of her magic book. He turned on the light above his head and read aloud to Ronnie and Bartholomew. They laughed whenever he did. I just met Ace. He's my parents' lawyer. Guess what? He's crazier than my aunt and uncle put together. The first thing he said to me was, "Do you like peanuts?" "They're okay," I answered. "Good," he said. He gave me another peanut and I ate it. "Do you want another peanut?" he asked. I shrugged. So he gave me another peanut and I ate that one too. Big deal. "So you must really like peanuts a lot," he said. I told you he was crazy. "I want you to remember that," he said. "If anybody asks you, you really like peanuts a lot." "Okay, I really like peanuts a lot," I said. Then he gave me 3 more peanuts. "Eat these." I ate them. "You just ate 3 peanuts in 5 seconds," he said. Can you believe it? He had timed me. Tell me he isn't crazy. "He isn't crazy," laughed Ronnie. "Why is he making such a big deal over peanuts?" asked Bartholomew. "I don't know," said Bradley. There was a loud knock on his door. Then his father entered. "It's past your bedtime, Bradley," he said. "Okay," said Bradley, reaching for his light. "Oh, you were reading," his father noticed. "Well, that's all right then. You can stay up if you want to read." Bradley smiled. Once again, the magic book had kept him from getting into trouble. "So, what did the kids think of your dribbling?" "I forgot how," Bradley admitted. He hated to disappoint his father. "I guess we need to practice more," said his father. "Maybe this weekend I'll put up a backboard on the garage." He said goodnight and walked out of Bradley's room. "Come on, I want to hear more about the peanuts," said Bartholomew. Bradley continued reading. "So then he asked me, 'Are you good at math?' Well, I don't like to brag, but math happens to be my best subject. Big deal. Okay, here's a math problem for you," he said. "If you can eat 3 peanuts in 5 seconds, how long would it take for you to eat 50,000 peanuts?" I got out a paper and a pencil and figured it out. "About 23 hours and 9 minutes. That's less than a day, isn't it?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "There are 24 hours in a day." He's supposed to be my parents' lawyer, and he doesn't even know how many hours there are in a day. "Remember that," he told me. "If anybody asks you, you can eat 50,000 peanuts in a day." I laughed. "Who would ask me that?" "The police." The chapter ended there. And that's also the end of our chapter. What would you call chapter 35? Chapter 36. Bradley giggled as he walked to Carla's office for his regularly scheduled appointment. He couldn't wait to tell her all that had happened to him. She'll be so happy, he thought. She was waiting for him in the hall just outside her office, but before she could say anything, he beat her to it. "Hello, Carla," he said. "It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate coming to see you." She smiled. "The pleasure is all mine," she replied. He laughed. He got a kick out of being polite. They shook hands and went inside to the round table. She was wearing a dark blue shirt, almost black, with little stars on it. She looked like nighttime. "So, what's new?" she asked. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He didn't know why, but for some reason he didn't want to tell her. "What's new with you?" he asked. "With me?" asked Carla. "Nobody's ever asked me that before." "You're always asking me what's new," he said. "Why can't I ask you?" "You can," she replied. "You can ask me anything you want. Let me see. What's new? I bought a new shower curtain yesterday, but that doesn't sound very interesting, does it?" "What color?" "Oh, sort of beige, I don't know. Doesn't really have a color." "That's a good color," said Bradley. "It sounds beautiful." "It's okay," said Carla. "What happened to your old shower curtain?" he asked. "It started to get a little rotten," said Carla. "Was it also beige?" No," said Carla. "I think it was yellow when it was new, but it was sort of a greenish brown when Colleen invited me to her birthday party," he blurted. Then it all came pouring out of him. "Jeff's invited too. We'll be the only boys. Everyone else will be girls. Jeff and I are friends now. The other guys like me too. We play basketball together. At first I was afraid to shoot the ball, but then everybody said, 'Shoot, Bradley, shoot,' so I shot it and made it. Everyone was amazed. So was I. I still miss a lot more than I make, but I'm getting better. Everyone says so. My father taught me how to dribble. He was going to put a basket over the garage. At first they wanted to beat me up, but I said, 'Hello, Jeff.' And he said, 'Hello, Bradley.' And then Andy asked me if I wanted to play basketball. Then Colleen asked me to her birthday party, and I said yes, and she said good. She would have asked me sooner, except she just found out when she was born." Fortunately, Carla had heard most of it already. Otherwise, she wouldn't have understood a thing he said. "It's because of you," said Bradley. "You did it, Bradley, not me. It was your magic book." My book? What's that got to do with Bradley? Why are you crying? He was crying. One second he was beaming about her magic book, and the next he was sobbing and shaking all over. Bradley? He covered his face with his hands. Tears spilled out of his eyes. What is it? Asked Carla. What happened? He shook his head. Carla rose from the table, got a box of tissues, and placed it in front of him. He pulled out a tissue but didn't use it. I've never been to a birthday party, he blubbered. Then he hiccuped. Not a real one, where other kids were there. He hiccuped again, then blew his nose. A long time ago, when I was in the 3rd grade, I went to one, but they made me go home because I sat on the cake. Well, you're a lot smarter now than you were when you were in 3rd grade, said Carla. But I don't remember what to do, Bradley whined. Do I have to bring my own chair? Why would you have to bring your own chair? For musical chairs. That's why I sat on the cake. I got mad because there was no place else to sit. He sniffled. Will there be ice cream? Don't you like ice cream? What if they don't have enough for me? What if they only have enough for everybody else? And what about Pin the Tail and the donkey? You don't have to bring your own donkey, said Carla. He laughed through his tears. But what if I stick it in a bad place? You know what I want? You know what? Do you want to know what I think? Asked Carla. I think you're a little overwhelmed by all that has happened to you. It scared you. You think you're Cinderella. Cinderella? He repeated and laughed again. You're Cinderella, and you've just been invited to the ball. And now you're afraid that right in the middle of Colleen's birthday party, everything will suddenly turn into a pumpkin. He wiped his eyes on the tissue. You're afraid that all the good things that happen will suddenly disappear. You're afraid everyone will suddenly stop liking you. But this isn't a fairy tale, Bradley. Your friends will like you for who you are. The magic is in you. Your friends like you for who you are. My book isn't magic. Do I have to bring her a present? He asked. You don't have to do anything, said Carla. But it's a nice thing to do, don't you think? Colleen invited you to her birthday party because she likes you. And you give her a birthday present because you like her and because you want to help celebrate her birthday. What should I get her? Should I get her a doll? Is that what girls like? I don't know. Everyone likes different things. Give her something you like. If you like it, then she probably will like it too. Give her a gift from the heart. How about a shower curtain? He asked. If it comes from the heart, said Carla. He smiled. When it was time for him to return to class, Carla said, I enjoyed our visit very much. Thank you for sharing so much with me. The pleasure was mine, he replied. He had been waiting to say that. That is the end of the chapter. So what would you call chapter 36? And that is all we have time for.